Institute of Strategic Studies and Builder Self invited me here. And the organizers, the Honorable Izaz Chaudhry Sahab, Mr. Khalid Sahab, the chief guest, Sheikh Rashid Sahab, and we are almost 1 day is left for the completion of 2 years of the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A. And most of the people around the world, I mean, they've condemned it. And when this heinous crime was committed against the Kashmiris 2 years back, at that time, if you recall, there was a lot of global condemnation against this act, because it was an act of genocide, a death warrant being signed against an unarmed and defenseless nation of Kashmiri people, but also at the same time it was a violation of the UN resolutions, as the previous speakers also spoke about the legal aspect, like the Apartheid Convention and the Geneva Convention for violation. So it was a violation, a surpassing of the UN resolutions, the international law, humanitarian law, Geneva Conventions, and Kashmiri people are day by day for the past 2 years have not just been facing the violence coming from the Indian occupational forces, but at the same time the pace of the Indians being settled over there is increasing with every day. And the first few months, especially after this action of 5th of August, we saw a lot of global intervention or protests happening all over the world, and the international media coverage and condemnations coming from all over the world. But sadly, it was our bad luck, and also for the world also, that in March 2020 there was a lockdown because of COVID, and the global focus it shifted from the Kashmir issue towards battling COVID-19, and the world was in a lockdown. They were losing jobs, there was depression, people were losing their loved ones. So in a way it was tragic for the Kashmiris, because we were already in a lockdown and in a siege after 5th of August and a curfew. But then now I think after these 2 years almost, I feel that the general public around the world, at least they can kind of relate to the Kashmiri people of not just a similar lockdown obviously, because there is a huge difference between the lockdown that the Kashmiris are witnessing and what the people around the world, because your lockdowns are in the 4th wave, 2nd, 3rd wave, the governments or the regimes around the world are trying to save their public, their lives. But over here in Kashmir, it's the total reverse. Over here, we're locked down to kill us, to eliminate us, to marginalize us, and also to snatch away all our basic rights. And in simple terms, I would say that Kashmiris became refugees on their own land on this day, on 5th of August. And Article 370, as we keep discussing it, and 35A, Article 370 basically it ensures a certain degree of autonomy to the Kashmiri people, and 35A ensures a separate citizenship law under the Indian Constitution. So both were abrogated, and Kashmiris became dismembered and stateless, and they lost their right to identity completely. Before 5th of August, it was the occupational forces that were there. There were draconian laws. People were being killed. Rape was used as a weapon of war, and all sorts of heinous, gruesome crimes were being committed. But the difference between post and pre 5th of August is that at that time, previously, we had the occupational forces, but now we have the Indian public also marching into Kashmir and snatching away the property rights, ownership rights, political rights, economic rights, taking away a huge quota of the jobs over there, the job opportunities for the Kashmiris, for the educational quota, and a lot of Indian students are being shifted to Kashmiri universities, and they are taking the rights of the Kashmiri people, and a lot of shrines over there, tourist resorts. Now they're all under the control of the Delhi regime directly. The dargahs over there, the mandirs also, some of the mandirs, and a lot of legal protection is being given to the Indians over there. And we must keep in mind that when you compare Azad Kashmir with Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, I mean, one thing I can proudly say is that no Pakistani can buy land in Azad Kashmir because that demography is being protected by the people of Kashmir and they have a state subject. Whereas in the case of the other side, it's the total reverse, as I mentioned before, that Kashmiris are, being marginalized, and especially recently, after the DDC elections, there was an APC conducted by Mr. Modi, and he invited his favorite Kashmiri puppet. Mr. Walid is giving me that grin, but yeah, that's what we call them, those Kashmiri puppet politicians, or the Abdullah dynasty, or the Muftis, and they were invited along with a few others. It was basically not just because of international pressure or some kind of drama or theatre being, acted upon over there. It was basically to go one step forward on their plans of changing the demography. And already the elections that are being conducted under the Indian gun after every 4 to 5 years over there, we've seen in the past also that majority Kashmiris have always boycotted those elections because they do not consider elections free and fair under the Indian gun. And naturally the Kashmiris are fighting for their right to plebiscite and right to self-determination. So these politicians were basically invited there to give them that confidence, or to discuss with them that now we're going to go one step further, that first we used to have those seats allotted for them on the basis of religion because it is a majority Muslim region, but now we'll do it on the basis of the geography. So map tracking was taking place over here, and now they're allotting more seats to the Jammu people. So Pakistan and the Hurriyat leadership, it rejects these elections, but this is part of the process, and in a span of 2 years, over 4 million Indians have been granted state domicile certificates, and Indian business community also. So I think it's very, very important that a lot of people discuss the impacts it has had on the Kashmiri public, on marginalizing them, and it's not humanly possible for them, especially when they are leaderless right now. All our leadership is locked up, they're being tortured, they're being jailed, they're being silenced. You have Gilani Sahab, he's house arrested for many years. Mr. Mirwais is house arrested. My husband Yasin is in a death cell in Tihar, and then you have Asiya Saiba in Tihar and Shabir Shah Sahab. So when the leadership is not there, even the second-tier leadership is not there, it is literally a leaderless movement, but that sentiment of azadi and freedom is so deep-rooted that no matter what Indians do or the Indian state does, they cannot kill it. But I think we strongly need legal action on this. We can condemn it, we can protest about it, but unless and until we don't take our case to the International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court, to challenge the war crimes being committed against humanity, and especially, as the previous speaker also mentioned, Fourth Geneva Convention violation, because in a disputed territory it's illegal to change the demography. It's completely illegal because it falls under the UN umbrella. Nobody can change the demography in Azad Kashmir. Nobody is allowed to change it in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir till the final settlement. Because our entire struggle will go in vain if sooner or later we've become into a mini Indian colony, and it's a mini India. And then the voting is conducted, plebiscite. What will we do? Where will our sacrifices go? So this is the time to act, and I would also request that, because we have a lot of people from the Foreign Office also, that I have another event right now with the Foreign Minister. I've discussed it with them as well, that we must have a legal cell in the Foreign Office, and this think tank also, Institute of Strategic Studies, and all you're already doing great work, research on strategic planning, on Kashmir, on the region. So I think it's very, very important to have a framework of taking it internationally through the legal eye, because it was a lawfare committed by India. And then we should also work internationally and lobby within the UN to table a resolution over there demanding a population census on Kashmir, because we have no idea. The reports that we are getting is that over 4 million Indians have gotten domicile certificates. So these are things where time is running short. I think by next year, God forbid, we are here to speak up on the third anniversary of this abrogation, I'm afraid we might become into a minority at the pace which Modi is going. So I think it's very important to focus on the legal aspect, and also, as the Foreign Office has sent a dossier of the RSS being a terrorist organization, I think we need to work on that also strongly, because that is the main root cause of that Akhand Bharat narrative that is ruling India right now. So thank you very much.